One night, everything went quiet. Then chaos followed. A single podcast clip turned Simone Biles and her husband, Jonathan Owens, into trending names for all the wrong reasons. It started with a simple question on the Pivot podcast: how did you manage to get Simone Biles? But Jonathan's answer shocked people. With a casual smile, he said, "It's really how she pulled me." Then he added something that changed the tone of the entire conversation. I always say, the man is the catch. You won't believe how quickly the internet reacted. People didn't hold back. Social media exploded. TikTok, Twitter, everywhere. People were asking, did he really say that about Simone Biles? One of the most decorated athletes in history, called the catch by her own husband? The comments were brutal. Memes popped up left and right. People didn't even call him by his name anymore. He became Mr. Biles. Let me tell you, this wasn't just any celebrity drama. This was different. This hit deep because Simone wasn't just famous, she was respected. She earned every bit of her success through years of sacrifice, pressure, and pain. And now, here was her husband sounding like he didn't know or care what she stood for. That's what made it so hard to ignore. This is where it gets interesting. Jonathan said he didn't even know who she was when they met. He claimed he didn't watch gymnastics and only noticed that she had a lot of Instagram followers. But then the internet did what it does best. They dug up the receipts. Old tweets from 2012 showed him talking about the Olympics. He was even tweeting during the gymnastics events. People started saying, wait a minute, didn't he say he didn't follow gymnastics? The contradiction made everything worse. The craziest part, he still didn't take it back. He stood by it. Simone, on the other hand, kept her cool. She posted just a few words. Are y'all done yet? That was it. No long post, no explanation, just one sentence that said everything. Owens posted their wedding photos and captioned them unbothered. And just like that, the couple acted like nothing happened while the internet kept boiling. But here's the shocking part. It wasn't just about what Jonathan said, it was who he said it about. Simone wasn't just his wife, she was someone millions looked up to. Her journey wasn't built on fame, it was built on fight. And to understand why this moment hurt so many people, you have to know where she came from. Simone wasn't born with an easy life. In fact, she started with nothing. At just 3 years old, she was placed into foster care. Her mother struggled with substance abuse and couldn't take care of her. Imagine being that young, without a stable home, not knowing what tomorrow would bring. For 3 long years, Simone moved between foster homes. Confusion, fear, instability, those became normal. But then, destiny took an unexpected turn. In 2000, her grandparents, Ron and Nellie Biles, adopted her and her little sister. That moment changed everything. They weren't just her family, they were her foundation. They gave her structure, love, and a chance to grow. They moved to Spring, Texas, and started a new life. Simone had no idea that her next steps would take her to greatness. Her journey into gymnastics started with a simple daycare trip to a gym. That's right, just a random field trip. But sometimes that's all life needs, one spark. Her coaches saw something special right away. Her energy, her power, her balance. It was different. At just 6 years old, she stood out. By 8, she was already doing skills that most gymnasts wouldn't dare to try. She wasn't just talented, she was a prodigy. Simone's life moved fast after that first day in the gym. While other kids played with toys, she was training with intensity far beyond her age. Day after day, she practiced, fell, got up, and tried again. Her grandparents supported her through it all. Early mornings, long drives, financial sacrifices. But they believed in her, and soon, the entire gymnastics world did too. She rose through the junior ranks quickly, and by the time she was a teenager, people were already calling her the future of the sport. Then came the 2016 Olympics in Rio. Simone didn't just win, she dominated. 4 gold medals, 1 bronze, and a performance that stunned the world. She flipped, twisted, and soared in ways no one had seen before. But here's the part most people didn't realize at the time. Simone wasn't just dealing with pressure from the sport. She was carrying something heavier, something darker, deep inside. Years later, she would reveal the truth. Simone was one of the many survivors of abuse by Larry Nassar, the former USA Gymnastics team doctor. You see, while she was winning medals and making history, she was also hiding trauma that no young girl should ever face. But she stayed silent for a while. Until one day, in 2018, she finally said it out loud. I too am one of the many survivors. That sentence shook the sports world. Let me tell you, it took courage, real courage, because Simone didn't have to come forward. She could have stayed quiet, protected her image, and avoided the pain of reliving that chapter. But she chose to speak for herself and for every other girl who was told to stay quiet. That's what makes this story different. She wasn't just a gymnast, she became a fighter for justice, for change, for truth. But even with all that behind her, Simone didn't stop. She kept training, kept competing, and kept advocating for mental health and athlete safety. Then came the 2021 Tokyo Olympics. People expected her to do what she always did, win big. But something happened that no one saw coming. In the middle of the team event, Simone stopped. She walked away. Why? Because she got the twisties? The twisties sound strange, right? But for a gymnast, they're terrifying. It's when your body suddenly loses track of itself in the air. You don't know where you are. You don't know how you'll land. One wrong move and you could be seriously hurt. Simone knew something was wrong, and instead of risking her health, she made a choice that shocked the world. She put her mental health first. Now, this was the craziest part for many people. Some critics called her weak. They said she quit. But others, millions of others, called her brave. Because in that moment, she showed the world that mental strength isn't just about pushing through pain. Sometimes it's about knowing when to stop. And Simone proved that protecting your mind is just as important as protecting your body. That moment sparked a global conversation. Suddenly, athletes everywhere started opening up. Mental health was no longer a taboo subject. It was front and center. And Simone, she became its face, a symbol of strength, not just in the gym, but in life. So now think back to that podcast clip. When Jonathan Owens said, I was the catch, the internet didn't just laugh or criticize. It reacted because they knew the full story behind Simone Biles. They knew what she had been through, what she had overcome, and what she represented. That's why people didn't let it slide. After the Tokyo Olympics, Simone stepped away from the sport for a while. People wondered if she would ever return. Some said she didn't need to. She had already done more than enough, won more medals, broken more records, and stood stronger than most ever could. But Simone was never about just proving things to others. She had more to say. And this time, it wasn't just with her gymnastics. It was with her voice, her truth, her platform. She started speaking openly about anxiety, depression, and the emotional scars of her past. She wasn't afraid to say she had struggled, that some days were hard, and that healing wasn't a straight line. She reminded the world that even champions have bad days. And in doing so, she became something rare in sports. A person people didn't just admire, but related to. She didn't hide her flaws. She embraced them. But here's the shocking part. As strong as she appeared on the outside, Simone was still carrying the weight of being misunderstood. Every step she took in public was watched, judged, picked apart. And now with Jonathan Owens' interview going viral, she found herself once again in the middle of a conversation she didn't ask for. People weren't just mad at Owens, they were worried for her. They thought maybe he didn't appreciate her. Maybe he didn't understand her worth. And once again, Simone had to navigate a storm that she didn't create. Let me tell you, this moment said a lot about how people viewed her. Not as some celebrity, but as someone they protected. Viewers didn't want her to be hurt, not after everything she had already endured. This wasn't about gossip. This was about respect. And in the eyes of many, Owens crossed a line, not by being honest, but by being careless. Because when you marry someone like Simone Biles, you carry her story too, her pain, her strength, her legacy. But this is where it gets interesting. Simone didn't lash out. She didn't make a dramatic post or try to defend herself. Instead, she stayed quiet and powerful. She let the world talk while she simply showed who she was. A photo from their wedding, a soft caption, just 2 words, for life. No anger, no explanation, just grace. And maybe that's what stunned people the most, her calm in the middle of chaos. At the same time, more clips from the podcast spread. Some people started defending Owens, saying he was just joking, just being honest. Others doubled down, saying it revealed how ego and pride can damage even the strongest bonds. But through it all, Simone didn't lose her balance, because she had been through worse, much worse. She had survived abuse, public scrutiny, mental battles, and crushing expectations. This was noise. And Simone had learned a long time ago how to move through the noise with focus, with heart, with silence, when words weren't needed. That's what made her different. So as the internet fought over who was right or wrong, Simone did what she always did. She kept going, she trained, she posted, she smiled, and slowly people realized something. This controversy didn't define her. It couldn't, because her story was bigger than any interview, any comment, or any trend. As days passed, the storm around Jonathan Owens' comment began to calm down. But something had changed. People weren't just talking about the podcast anymore. They were talking about relationships, respect, and how we value women who have built something extraordinary. Simone's silence had spoken louder than any reply, but still, the spotlight stayed on. And not because she asked for it, but because she had become so much more than a gymnast. She had become a symbol. What makes this story different? It's not just about a viral moment or a trending clip. It's about how one woman turned every piece of pain into power. Simone Biles didn't choose fame, she chose survival. And in doing so, the world chose to follow her. Not because she was perfect, but because she was real. The craziest part? Even after everything, the trauma, the media pressure, the mental health challenges, Simone still came back. In 2023, she returned to competition, and not just to compete, but to win. She was back on the mat, flipping with strength and confidence, showing the world that nothing could break her spirit. Her comeback wasn't just physical, it was emotional. And that moment reminded everyone why they loved her in the first place. But destiny took an unexpected turn again. Not in the gym, but in the way people now looked at Simone's legacy. They didn't just see the medals anymore. They saw the little girl from Ohio who once lived in foster care. They saw the survivor who stood in front of the world and said, "I'm not afraid to tell my story anymore." They saw a woman who could balance gold medals in one hand and emotional scars in the other, and still walk with her head high. Let me tell you, Simone Biles didn't just redefine gymnastics. She redefined what it means to be strong. And maybe that's why people felt so protective when her husband's words didn't match the weight of her journey. Maybe they expected him to celebrate her the way the world did. But even if he didn't, she did. Simone celebrated herself through every choice, every comeback, and every silence. And that's the heart of this story. Not who was the catch in the relationship, but who refused to let life catch her off guard. Simone Biles chose herself every time, through every fall, through every twist, through every betrayal of trust. She rose, not just in the gym, but in life. So next time someone questions her worth, just remember this. She already proved it, not to the world, but to herself. And that's the only win that ever mattered. Thank you for staying with us till the end of this story. Simone Biles didn't just inspire a generation. She changed it, and her journey is far from over. If you're ready for more stories that reveal the truth behind the headlines, just stick with us. because sometimes the real story isn't what trends, it's what survives.